This is your host, Lindsay Ellison Hooper, with World Ascension Conference coming to you live from Wilmington, North Carolina. Wherever you are in the cosmos, the universe, on Earth, or another planet, we thank you for joining us. And we are so excited and honored to have a returning guest, Ben Davis Jr. So, Ben, I'm just gonna open it up for you, as this is a series that we are doing here, and so I'm gonna give you the floor.
Okay, well, let me just say this. I'm going to start out on this episode with writing my book and the message that's so imperative that we get out because nobody has ever heard of it. And to begin with, I'd like to thank you, Lindsay, for your time and efforts by joining my task to expose to the world exactly what must be exposed to the entire population of this planet. The content of my book will be read by me while showing photos of my personal collection taken by me of chemtrails by the U.S. Air Force, in which they sprayed the entire atmosphere on the planet since around 1998.
And let's get this clear to the viewers. There is a difference in contrails and chemtrails. I just want to state that. Just do your research, guys. So go ahead, Ben.
Well, I'll begin by saying sit back and listen for 34 minutes and just look at the pictures that everybody says, oh, look up in the sky. And here we go. The events described in this book are all true. The names are real names of people in real United States government organizations. Any resemblance to persons living or dead should be plainly apparent to them and those who know them, especially if the author has been kind enough to have provided their real names and, in some cases, changed the names for their protection. All events described herein actually happened, though on occasion the author has taken certain very small liberties with chronology, because that is his right as a true red-blooded American citizen seeking full disclosure of secrets within our United States government, including my own top secret Army documents, which only a handful has been included in this story to prove under scrutiny that my life was worth taking the red pill, or to be just like you, the reader, who sits reading and wondering why you took the blue pill and stuck in this matrix of lies and deceit. Now that the previous pages that are written, rewritten, and edited only shows what my ET experience is all about during my younger years, it has come to my attention recently that I must continue onward in completing my final task of writing this book. When I parked my story on the shelf to learn how to not only write a book, but to edit it, research the resources online for more content, for evidence to prove my story, I was contacted by someone that I can trust, who gave me the exact amount of advice to make this story what it was meant to be intended for. It's all about time. That person had become my ultimate mentor, who I shall keep as my unknown resource until my final days on earth end for me. Over the past 40 years, my life has been through hell at times. Many of my best feats and accomplishments are well known. The ones that I care not to write about were from a timeline that only steered me onto this timeline, which has been the destiny I have followed since I chose to be the one. So, what is the one? The one is what we all are looking for our entire lives, that will be the sacrificial lamb to expose the truth, the reality of what we as a human being can never grasp as long as there is just a very small fraction of doubt. To doubt what, you ask? To question those in power above and beyond your own reality. A reality that is not in your life on any single moment that you breathe the air to live by watching mainstream media news. Speaking of which, the single most unanswered questions that has never been answered truthfully is about the UFO phenomenon, ET agendas, and the alien abductions. Our government and military has always kept the lid on any and all incidents from public opinion and or scrutiny by deeming them as top secret for national security reasons. What is so secret that we the people of these United States of America has to be kept in such dark constructs over it? The truth shall set us free, or so I'd like to believe. I will valiantly try dying to my exposure of this truth. To begin with, let me start with my story written above on what I was led to believe was an alien abduction, turned into the incident at Fort Polk, involving not just me, but several other soldiers over a duration of time that lasted about 2 weeks. There was alleged telepathic powers that could manipulate other humans, manifest objects to move against all the known physics of mankind, and had an increased ability to react to any known or unknown circumstances and to be taken or shown the future of events beyond the known sciences on the planet Earth. Does that sound like the truth in a nutshell? Probably so, but not so fast for a simple man. The night that we all had decided to take it upon ourselves to go on post and steal an alien high-energy beam weapon from the United States Army and what we had been convinced was going to save humanity in the future from extinction is when I chose to write this book for you and I'm reading now. The content that I'm writing about can only be proven with documentation acquired from archives deemed top secret under National Security Agency mandates. The documents that I provided below have enough proof to enable a full investigation of claims of being involved with secret military projects, including one that has been discreetly published on the internet on a website. I have recently been granted permission from the website owner to use any content that is from his own hands-on descriptions of the secret mind control program being implemented by the military-industrial complex and those in secret research and development projects. Look, up in the sky, Chapter 8. During my education in creative writing for entertainment, my Bachelor of Fine Arts degree at Full Sail University, I have not only learned a very fulfilling new career at my old age, but I also realized that there's just one concept that I had to learn, and that was to entertain those that watch television, follow your friends on Facebook, YouTube, and of course, the mainstream media as well. So let me get straight to the point here. I've learned from very high tuition through a FAFSA student loan that my research and hours upon hours of searching for clues and or answers to the age-old question of mine, why me, in regards to being the one who still has no answers. I can only point my fingers to the only source obvious to me all along. That source is aimed at the military-industrial complex, in which was created after World War II during the Truman era and amidst the Roswell incident, which to this day is classified top secret eyes only. I'll follow the money too, which is the MIC funding through Congress. In the beginning of the MSM, all there was in that era was newspapers and radio. The television was not yet invented, or shall I say re-engineered, from an unknown source other than the Patent Office system. President Truman put together a group of very intelligent and educated men as yet to be truthfully validated to the American public, called the MJ-12 Project. Under these 12 men, 6 civilians and 6 military men, a completely new military organization was founded, which included creating the NSA, CIA, and several other ABC types of agencies that were designed to keep the taxpayer from finding out where all their tax money was being spent on. Over the next decade of growth, the MIC began the top secret projects, of which to this day is still classified as a national security issue to defend the United States from enemies abroad. I now will say that disclosure of any and all military-industrial complex top secret projects be shown taxpayers before all are exterminated from such projects. In today's mainstream media newscasts, all we see is violence, especially gun violence, on every TV station across the country. The political stance is just as bad and is part of a subliminal messaging construct that is uncalled for to the American people and around the globe as well. But to be very candid here, I must say that what the people do not see is love, peace, and harmony all over the newscast. It's nothing but violence. ISIS this, ISIL that, and why the U.S. military has to be overseas combating terrorism. It is exactly where I'm going with my story here. Nothing but war, and more lies, and more breaking news stories. The elites own every corporation that manufactures weapons, all military equipment, gear, the MSM, the pharmaceutical industry, the food industry, the oil industry, the shipping industry, and of all the most important assets to the powers that be is the political power structures across the globe, in which we as the taxpayer have no access to any and all secrets deemed a severe national security threat to the United States of America, all in the ruse to preserve our freedom? It all started when President Eisenhower gave his exit speech warning the citizens of America to keep the MIC from becoming what they are now. A tyranny is in the powers that be as I write this book, to erase the human race from the planet Earth. There are no malevolent ETs that will attack our planet. There are no terrorists that are involved with violence anywhere on the planet. There's only benevolent ETs that will not show themselves to any power countries on the planet until all military aggression is withdrawn and the weapons of mass destruction are gone. The most significant message in this book came from my late father, who was educated at Bowles Military Academy and further into the United States Navy UDT-25, Underwater Demolition Team 25, also known as Frogman, and the SEALs program. And it was during the Pacific arena in World War II when he joined. This most prolific statement that my late father told to me during the incident at Fort Polk was this. He said, "Son, I personally taught the Senator Lawton Childs about your involvement with the UFO incident and the so-called aliens that you told me had interacted with you on base." And he specifically said that there are no malevolent ETs involved with the military at all. He did tell me that highly advanced technologies may be part of your troubles and advised me to go see the base commander in person to get the answers. He somewhat said that he was under the impression that what I saw was one of Howard Hughes' goddamn toys the military defense department research industry experimenting with. He also told me that personally would pull your ass out of this sling you seem to be in, so just sit tight, just wait for an inquiry to come down the paper trail. He promised me that you would get a discharge with full benefits and no more court-martial nonsense to contend with. Now you be patient, son, and get back to me in about a month. I responded and said, "Dad, look, I told you the truth, and you know that I never lied to you." My dad said back, "I've never told a lie my entire life, so now you be careful." And he hung up. There have been disinformation agents online, in the mainstream media, on newspapers, magazines, and radios that continue to dissuade the public from reality. It is the MIC's purpose and tactics to keep the U.S. military at war, which in reality is their only way to manipulate the taxpayers' funds into the military budget that our Congress bestows upon them every single year. It has to stop now. I, for one, am the prime example for everyone to see and listen to as I told my story through my eyes. It has been the longest 40 years any one human on the planet could ever endure. It is about space-based weapons and time, a time which we don't have to waste. I know for a fact my involvement in the incident at Fort Polk in the spring of '76 is exactly what is at stake here. The ET weapon that my team of other soldiers chose to steal from the Army was what is now called a directed energy weapon. as outlined in a recently released declassified Freedom of Information Act requested document. It's called Weather Modification, the Ultimate Weapon. Document 94-25269 is where I suggest this entire document be scrutinized to its full capacity. After reading this report, mind you, it includes the funding amounts that have never been reported to the public at all or to its complete prospective design. The document below said that in a 5-year period from 2004 through 2009, over $2.4 trillion in funds were required. So just do the math and add another 7 years beyond the declassification and release date of such funds being used. Our own military spraying the entire planet for alleged weather modifications. I say they are doing biowarfare on us. The documents I embedded below will enlighten you at best, but to be very frank here, the report is so vague and full of factual technologies that I believe there's a very hidden agenda in between the lines, so to speak. For example, I mentioned it earlier in my story regarding the bugs that one day I caught and reviewed it under a microscope with photo capture software. The damn thing was very much alive, biological with mechanical features as well. It disappeared as my ex-Army pal, who was an assassin CI trained special forces in the Vietnam era, and he was looking at it once he captured a still photo. We talked about it, what the hell it was, and concluded that it was part of the inoculation we got during our basic AIT training in the Army, during the NAM era. I always had wondered how I had become such a super soldier type of man throughout my life. It could also explain the mind control memories of ETs, UFOs, and the intellectual empath capabilities that I had always believed were a gift from ETs. Is there any connection to this? Of course it is. Furthermore, in comes the entire secret chemtrails program that nobody ever seems to look up in the sky and see the spraying going on all across America, much less the entire planet, that we taxpayers are funding for the 24/7 operation. I did the math and conclude that the U.S. Air Force has spent well over $6.2 trillion since 2004. So here I sit finishing up my book for the world to read about the truth and the reality of what has been the greatest deception to ever happen on the planet. I demand total and full disclosure, and so should you, or we all die, simply put. There's tons of research that opened my eyes to the fact that our MIC has been playing God with many enlisted men and women since before I was even born. The worst part of it is that my life was thrown away just as easily as being a casualty in a war zone. I want my life back. I want my honor restored and the dignity of who and what I was before volunteering my life into the Army. That one physical exam document, or several other documents deemed top secret or confidentialized only, will never be released that could further prove my involvement in military secret projects. It ends up being the greatest cover-up the American people have ever done to them in history. That's to all our service members. And it's all to acquire funding from Congress for the powers that be who controls the entire planet. Once again, I must demand we take that step. A time for truth, and the truth will set you free. It's about time to finally end all of the violence on the planet. It's about time to tell the tale that has kept me enslaved in society for the elites to own since I was born. It's about time for you, the reader, to awaken your consciousness to its highest level of energy and light. It's about time to end the egos of the military-industrial complex and the powers that be and live forever in peace. Here's the definition of the MIC ego. A person's sense of self-esteem or self-importance, a boost to my ego, self-esteem, self-importance, self-worth, self-respect, self-image, self-confidence. Egotism is the drive to maintain and enhance favorable views of one and generally features an inflated opinion of one's personal features and importance. It often includes intellectual, physical, social, and other overestimations. Egotism is closely related to an egocentric love for one's imagined self or narcissism. Egotism is closely related to an egocentric love for one's imagined self or narcissism. Indeed, some would say, by egotism, we may envisage a kind of socialized narcissism. Egotists have a strong tendency to talk about themselves in a self-promoting fashion, and they may well be arrogant and boastful with a grandiose sense of their own importance. Their inability to recognize the accomplishments of others leaves them profoundly self-promoting, while sensitivity to criticism may lead on the egotist's part to narcissistic rage at a sense of insult. Egotism differs from both altruism, or acting to gain fewer values than is being given, and from egoism, the constant pursuit of one's self-interest. Various forms of empirical egoism have been considered consistent with egotism, but do not, which is also the case with egotism in general, necessitate having an inflated sense of self. I personally saw that exact same scenario in 1976, most likely from a DARPA project, aka Pegasus project, in which time travel and teleportation was used in combination with very scrutinized and undisclosed MK Ultra project, which is the CIA's secret mind control project developed since its inception. Not to mention the direct energy weapons that I believe was the alien device that the so-called benevolent ETs had guided me to steal from the Army R&D teams. For what it's worth to me, being of a sound, strong mind, to write this book for publication is getting to the bottom of what has yet to be the death of the human species and what my task is to do, period. The purpose of chemtrails. Chemtrails are a huge logistical operation, larger than the Hoover Dam, Trans-Alaska Pipeline, or moon landing. It's large and expensive, with a whopping $2.4 trillion the first 5 years in operations. Imagine the cost since then, the 6.2 trillion or more who did this, and who can explain this massive amount of funding? The biggest mistake one can make is assuming there is only one reason for chemtrails. There are about 5 or 6 reasons, and possibly more. The top 6 are listed, and here's what I'm going to give as a brief summary. The first one, blocking the sun. This is the standard reason given to fools in the government. We need to secretly stop global warming, so keep it a secret that we're spraying. Global warming is a catch-all con for everyone in the government. If you're smarter than this, they'll give you a better reason. 2, blocking the sun. Again, a reduction in sunlight across the planet works well to decrease or manipulate crop yields slightly. This is part of the requirement to engineer a food crisis and bring in a famine. You can dismiss this. Reflecting sunlight creating holographic fears. 3rd, superheating the atmosphere in order to create earthquakes and steer hurricanes. So the atmosphere needs to be more conductive for electricity, so installations such as HAARP can work their magic. So the chemtrails spraying barium and aluminum, among other things, to create a more conductive upper atmosphere. The next one is health erosion. As a side effect, everyone's health and immune systems become slightly compressed. This is usually not an issue for most healthy people. Older people on average will now die sooner, and any health complication is slightly more likely to be fatal. This is both a side effect of spraying and intentional. The next one says climate modification. To help or hurt crops, keep skies clear for a major event like the Olympics, cause a typhoon, steer superstorms, etc. The next one says nanofiber propagation. To universally install a BioAPI, which is bio application programming interface, like plugging in your mouse, and everyone they need to spray these nanofibers. These fibers cannot be put into the food supply or given in some other way. The uptake across the population would take forever and not propagate very effectively. It's much easier to just spray everyone like an insect because it's happening to everyone in the universal herd mentality of the unwashed masses, and then it justifies it. Therefore, You should not focus on any one reason as being the end-all purpose. It's too dynamic. It's too complex. As I mentioned, the bioapi is the greatest revelation in, the bioapi is the greatest revelation in human history. For beginners, this included content came from a website generated and produced by a person, entity, or unknown source that I have concluded is a reality to contend with. All of the current and former breaking news stories regarding shooters killing massive people with an MSM display for the public to see, the pretense is gun control or terrorist acts that blame America for their whatever the hell it is. Examine the content below then. What the hell is happening? You must be thinking that, as well as being dazed and confused at least, which is the purpose of this content. Your unfortunate lack of critical thinking skills leaves you without the ability to see the unseeable. You watch, but you fail to see. Fear not, my less informed friend, whether you, being chemtrailed, body-mind controlled, hearing voices, or stalked by the public, this website connects the final high-level dots concerning this otherwise complicated puzzle of insanity currently before you. Logic, proportion, have fallen sloppy dead, and the white knight is talking backwards. Complete high dexterity remote control of every single synapse and neuron for every person on the face of the earth, and the greatest revelation in human history, your bioapi. My book is exactly what it is intended to do, as in these prime examples of PSYOPs and mind control secret programs in the hands of the MIC of the United States of America. In 1999, the world changed. The money trust, the law, commercial code contract law, applicability of public statutory presumptions, etc., technology, nanotechnology, and the general direction of the planet completely changed. In order to even remotely grasp what is happening, you must disconnect your mind from the last century's way of thinking. Failure to change the way you think will preclude you from seeing reality accurately. There is no money anymore. Taxes are a thing of the past, and no written law applies to you. So what we now have is a real brave new world. The purpose of this site is to simply show the extent at which they have leveraged nanotechnology directly on you, how they control everyone on demand with it, and in the confusion around the subject of chemtrails and how they fit it into larger picture while showing how the media and movies are conditioning the mind of the general public. Subliminal suggestion. Let's just get right to it. Forget everything you know. Here it is, the epitome of reality. This video is the best example that summarizes what's happening or has happened in your body already. This is the most prevalent secret in the whole world because it has been forced onto everyone unknowingly. The basic idea consists of a set of nanowires tethered to electronics on the main catheter such that they will spread out in a bouquet arrangement into a particular portion of the brain's vascular system. Such arrangement could support a very large number of probes, in the millions. Each nanowire would be used to record very securely electrical activity of a single or small group of neurons without invading the brain parenchyma. It's a simpler, detailed, mouse-over description for those who can't read the below website's purpose. Go to here, www.dataasylum.com. That's DATAASYLUM.com. Nanofiber basics, specifically, are a transport mechanism, nothing more. They hold a payload for delivery, a payload that would otherwise be comprised by the sun or atmosphere or not make it to its destination, your body, such as a viral RNA code, metals such as aluminum, nanocomponents, etc. And the fibers are surprisingly quite harmless, as everyone has them. Examples of these fibers can be found all over the internet, in physical examples too. The fibers must be independently sprayed. If they were added to the jet fuel, the extreme heat would destroy the payload. So if it's not the fiber that's critical, it's the payload. Why? This is a complicated question. The people creating and doing this are trying to force biblical principles onto the populace, including themselves, through technology. For example, the 7 deadly sins. They take a basic human requirement, food, sex, specific emotion, and quantify it within the bioapi. If the result is too extreme, for example, you eat too much, or you do something not approved, and then they decide that you're not worthy of life or judge you accordingly, in the alternative, you are added to a program. The possibilities of the bioapi or nanotech in general is endless. Therefore, you should not focus on any one reason as being the end-all purpose. It's too dynamic, and again, it's too complex. As I mentioned in the media references, the bioapi is the greatest revelation in human history. For example, see the last paragraph of the description of the movie Vexile, 2007, and it's specifically a trailer for H+. Datasylum is only giving you one angle of the bioapi, the nanotech disease and all the implications that encompass it. Now, who is this stuff doing this? It's the same group of people that brought humanity the HIV in the late 70s. Here's the bioapi phases. There are essentially 2 phases involved with the installation of the bioapi. That's a bioAPI. I categorize it as phase 1 and phase 2. If you can imagine a new laptop computer, all it has is the operating system like Windows, so it's kind of useless. Funny I said that. This would be the equivalent to phase 1. So a new computer can be remotely controlled, aka phase 1, like in the movie Surrogates, 2009. By your IT tech support guy, but that is all. There are no programs installed by phase 2 to do much else with it. The names of phase 1 and 2 are not necessarily just random nonsense I made up. You can look at it in a movie called Control Factor, in which they use these exact names in the exact same context because they are telling you everything, pre-programming you. Phase 1 could be construed as positive and beneficial to you, In phase 2, this phase must be triggered by nano trigger bots and is extreme. It completely compromises your health and can do anything from kill you to simply monitor you. This phase cannot be forced onto you like phase 1. This involves multiple nanosensors from ocular to heart and everything in between. If this phase is triggered in you, then they consider you evil, as shown within other media examples, and you must do something to trigger this phase, include eating cheap red meat, kissing specific people, using specific corporate health care, beauty products, etc. The objective they are partially reaching for here is to connect each event with a deadly sin of some sort. For example, morgellons would be connected with vanity because your skin goes to hell. Ultimately, this phase provides complete remote control of your body and mind, including the monitoring of your emotions, thoughts, body functions, and everything in between. Phase 2 can then be considered a nanotech disease, in which the contagious aspect can be switched on and off. For example, I have phase 2, but I'm not contagious. But I can be if they decide to make my contagious in some way, like typically kissing. This allows them to completely control the transmission vector or spreading of the nano disease. If you want to get specific, the nanotech or nano implants that compose phase 2 of the bioapi is actually just the vehicle they use, the human body. The disease itself is actually one of dishonor. The more dishonor you demonstrate, the more they hate you. The worse things get for you. They do not want people to figure that out. Phase 2 can also, or is definitely, detrimental to your life. That is the point of it. A cure can be found, and I know what it is. You can 100% confirm if you have phase 2 or not by seeing an eye doctor and asking him to look for anomalies exactly where the ocular implant is located. The implant is still a camera and therefore must conform to the laws of physics and optics still, so it must, like your eye has, a concave lens, which it does. You might be able to slightly feel it at night when you're falling asleep. When your eyes are dry and you move your eyeball around with your eyes closed, and specifically covers the contraction of phase 2 and the physical side effects. And also does a good job at covering multiple aspects of the contraction of the nanotech disease and the bioapi in general, both good and bad. Of course, with something as extreme as nanotech being installed within people's bodies, you would assume there would be health implications and side effects. This is correct and covered on the site, but the approach to handle these side effects has been one of embrace and extend, it's called. In effect, convincing the viewer to dismiss a real side effect as being something that's too crazy to be real.
So, anyway, all viewers, all attendees, all listeners, we thank you for joining us.